In just over 1 week, on February 27, I will be co-hosting the first session of a new course called AI Productivity Mastery, which I am co-hosting with Gabriel Custodiet and his business partner, Urban. In this course, we propose to teach you in a very short time all that you need to know to come up to speed to use modern AI tools to increase your personal and professional productivity. These days, ironically, one of my goals is to increase the number of people working with me. I've worked alone for many, many years, but these days my goal is to provide work for people. But now that I'm working with people, I am flat out astonished at how slow some of the people that are working with me are. And it drives me nuts because I watch them work sometimes and I think, you do not know how to use tools, modern tools, especially AI tools, very well. Let me teach you, because I can do tasks that other people can do. I can do them sometimes in a tenth of the time, certainly a fifth to a tenth of the time, depending on the task, of course. And so I've spent a lot of time trying to teach people, listen, let me teach you how to do this really fast, really quickly, really easily, so that together we can go farther. And I believe that this is one of the themes that we will see consistently in our lives, in our cultures, and our businesses going forward, is that the most effective people are not discarding people, and they're not discarding the old skills, but they're turbocharging the old skills with the new skills, those of using AI tools to make better things faster. If you feel like you would like to learn how to be one of the leading employees in your company, one of the most productive entrepreneurs that you know, or just simply flat out more effective in most of the things you do, whether you're homeschooling your children or whether you are just doing things, then please join us for this AI productivity event. You can sign up now at aiforradicals.com, aiforradicals.com, which will forward you through to the link that's just right in the show notes as well. So aiforradicals.com, or follow the link in the show notes and join us for the first session on February 27, just over 1 week away.
Welcome to Radical Personal Finance, a show dedicated to providing you with the knowledge, skills, insight, and encouragement you need to live a rich and meaningful life now while building a plan for financial freedom in 10 years or less. My name is Joshua. I am your host, and today on the podcast, we're going to answer a listener question from a 17-year-old young man. Joshua, just a question or two. Do you have any advice or simple steps I can do to start generating passive income or starting a small business from home? This was a conversation where a listener asked me this question, and I said, I have much to say on these topics. I'm glad you asked. 4 questions for you. First, what is passive income as you understand it? Number 2, why do you want passive income as compared to other forms of income? Number 3, why do you want to start a small business instead of other options, such as start a large business or get a job? And number 4, why do you want to start a small business from home? We're going to dig into those questions, and I'm going to lay out for you a framework that I believe is going to help you to think through these questions. And I say that as a veteran of this type of idea. First, before we get started, I want to remind you that this is the week for you to sign up for the new AI Productivity Mastery course that I am hosting with Gabriel Custodiet and his business partner, Urban. Urban and Gabriel are very cutting-edge AI experts, as am I, and we have decided to host a live event where we are going to put together all of the details to bring you from basically nothing up to pretty high level AI productivity very, very quickly over the course of 2 live events. In the first session, which begins on February 27, we will talk about the basics of AI, ChatGPT, Grok, making images, using it for projects, presentations, images, things like that. And then in the second session, which will be on March 18, we will have a deep dive course on my newest project, which is that of setting up my own AI agent. And as you'll hear in this podcast that I am now presenting to you, being highly skilled and highly productive using the latest, greatest tools is something that can be very impactful for you. We are increasingly moving into a world where the distance between the most highly productive and the least productive is going to be enormous. Many centuries ago, you could have one worker and another worker, and perhaps your best worker was twice as good as your worst worker or your median worker. Friends, I think we're heading into a world in which your best worker is going to be 100 times as good as your median worker, 1,000 times as good as your median worker. And I actually think it's probably possible that it may be more than that. Just you're not going to believe that, so I don't want you to think I'm being hyperbolic. The people who master the tools of this moment are able to produce so much more due to having these tools. We are going through a revolution right now with artificial intelligence that will be bigger than the computing revolution. Imagine you went back to 1970, or no, 1950, right? Mad Men, right? You're sitting in a Mad Men advertising agency office, and you're sitting there with the men who are doing their work just like it's been done for a while. Well, I think all of us probably would enjoy being there to some degree or another. Imagine that you walked in with your knowledge of modern technology, your brand new laptop, your brand new MacBook, your brand new iPhone, access to the internet. Imagine how effective you could be in that situation. Imagine how much faster and more valuable you could be with your modern work skills. That's the revolution we're going through right now. And I think a decade or two from now, probably a decade, probably not two, but a decade from now, you're going to see just as big of a difference as you today or me today and the Mad Men. If that sounds interesting to you, whether you're pretty good or even an expert, I think we're going to have some new things that would appeal to even experts. But if you are interested in artificial intelligence and you're interested in using it for productivity, sign up for our new live event, aiforradicals.com. will take you directly to the sign up page, aiforradicals.com. That will forward you through to Gabriel's site, which is hosting this particular live event, aiforradicals.com. Join us for that event. I'm going to lay out for you all the ways I'm using this in my family life, in my school, for my children, all of these things. And frankly, it is hard to imagine going back to the world of slowness a few years ago. I'm not sure all of this is good. More on that another time, but it is what it is, and we've got to face it. Back to this question. Now, here are the responses that I received from this young man. First question I said was, number one, what is passive income as you understand it? And he responded, intelligent 17-year-old, as I understand it, passive income is something that you put a little time into to get it started, and then you begin getting income over a certain amount of time, like monthly payments, for instance, while putting minimal or no time into it. Then the second question, I said, why do you want passive income as compared to other forms of income? So I had a conversation with a family member, and he impressed onto me the importance of making sure to have a fallback option and something to support myself when I am between jobs. I'm currently not really able to go out and get a normal job for many reasons, so I think this would be something good to get started on early when I have a lot of time compared to later in life when I might not. Now, passive income is incredible marketing copy. Passive income is the kind of thing that when we hear it, we're instantly drawn to it. I remember myself being a teenager and first hearing about passive income and thinking, man, I really want passive income. Who doesn't want to be able to just to sit around and basically be a trust fund baby? Who wouldn't want to have a universal basic income that flows in from a family trust, or just flows in whether you get out of bed or not, whether you go to the office or go to the beach, whether you're sitting in New York City or whether you're sitting in Maui? Who wouldn't want that? And what's amazing is we can build it. You as a young man, you genuinely can build for yourself passive income. However, I do not believe that building passive income should be your first goal. Rather, passive income is an ideal end state, but if you pursue passive income early, you will waste the most valuable asset that you have, which is time, because you are chasing the wrong goal. Let me define passive income the way that I think of it. Passive income is income that you receive without any effort or labor on your part. What are some examples of passive income? Well, really the only thing that I characterize as true passive income is dividends or automated stock sales from large publicly traded corporations. Imagine that you own shares in a large public company that pays dividends, and those dividends flow directly into your checking account. Every quarter when they're announced, they flow right into your checking account. It doesn't matter what you do, doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter if you're able to work, if you're able to turn on a computer or not, able to walk or not, doesn't matter. Those dividends will flow in for you every single quarter. That is passive income. When most people think of passive income, though, what they are imagining is what I call residual income. There are only a few forms of passive income, but there are many forms of residual income. I first started chasing residual income by pursuing a version of a small network marketing company when I was a teen. I think this is an excellent rite of passage. I've not really known many people who've later on become interested in business who didn't get involved in some kind of network marketing idea. Because it's so accessible, something is pitched to you, they say, hey, here, sell this product, and you can receive commissions on what the people in your downline purchase later on, and business that they generate, and you just imagine yourself sitting back at home with the checks flowing in. The question I have is simple. Is that passive income? I would say it's absolutely not passive income. There are many people who have become very successful in things like network marketing, many people who make a lot of money in network marketing, and none of them got there passively. They worked hard and long, and if ever they stop working, over time, their overrides start to diminish, their income goes down, so therefore it is not passive income. What it is, however, is residual income. It is income that is not tied to any particular hour of work or any one particular task, and it is income that is built up into the future based upon the actions of today. And under this definition, there are many forms of residual income. One of the more popular and common ones is that of rental income. If you own a home and you rent that home out to another person, then each month you will receive a rent payment. That is residual income. But it is not passive. When your tenant leaves, you will need to clean the house, paint it, and go and find a new tenant to inhabit it. When your tenant has a problem, you will need to solve the problem. You are providing a service. It is a business with residual income, the rents that you're receiving, but it is not passive. And this is basically the character of virtually all business. You could do this with a bicycle. One of my favorite comments from Jim Rohn years ago is he said, children should always have two bicycles, one to ride and one to rent. It's a good idea. If you can figure out how to rent a bicycle out, I think you should do that. You might do this with renting a car out. So you might have a car that you drive, and then you might have a car agency. For example, the most well-known one right now in the United States is Turo. You might rent your car out, and you might make some income from it. That is a form of residual income. There's various ways to take an asset that you have and rent it out. I rented one time a PA system from a friend of mine. And so he had a little income. He rented me his equipment. I used it. I was grateful for it. You might rent camera lenses out if you're a photographer. You might rent, I said, a car. You might rent a house on Airbnb or a room in your house. These are forms of residual income, but they are not passive. But there are many versions of that. Most businesses, and here I need to insert the definition of real businesses. Most real businesses are residual income generating machines. If you have a restaurant and you have a cook in the restaurant who makes hamburgers and serves them to people, you have ongoing sales that come in without your work. It's your team that's working. That's what business is. You have customers, you have people working in that business, and you have residual income. And when you crank that up to the maximum, it can become passive income. If you took your burger chain and you turned it into an enormous business with dozens and hundreds and thousands of locations, then you would be able to hire professional managers to run that business for you, a board of directors to supervise those managers, and you can sit at home and cash your dividends.
Big news! Wayfair's President's Day clearance is on now, and you can score tons of huge deals. Like Wayfair's best deals since Black Friday. Right now through February 16th, you can score up to 70% off everything home at Wayfair. Like up to 50% off mattresses with fast and easy shipping straight to your door. Plus amazing flash deals on President's Day. Shop Wayfair's President's Day clearance now through February 16th.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
We've just talked about something that we could basically call a publicly traded corporation. It's a passive income, genuine passive income opportunity when you get size and scale. The problem is you don't have that and you don't have money. So when you are young, you would like to get to passive income, but the best way to get to the point where you can live on passive income is for you to first build active income and then for you to turn around and save the income from your active income, save your money, and then buy shares of companies, and you will later get passive income. So the most useful tool that we have in the modern age is what we call the 4% rule. The 4% rule comes from classic financial planning, and it basically says that in the United States stock market, over the past decades, for all the decades that we have data for, if you have a portfolio, you can, in most cases, withdraw about 4% of that portfolio value. And depending on the ups and downs of the stock market, it will last you for at least many decades and in favorable market conditions for life. So this is a really good way to visualize what the goal is. If you're a young man and you can live on, say, $40,000 a year, and you can accumulate $1 million, then in that situation, you are able to have $40,000 a year of passive income. If we wanted to be just a bit more conservative, we could move that to the 3% rule. And if the future is something like the past, then in most situations, you could do that and it could last for life. So the vision here would be to build a trust fund for yourself. If you had a trust account with $1 million in it, you could have $30,000 per year of true passive income, and the portfolio value would continue to increase, and the plan works. If it's motivating to you, you could do this with a dividend portfolio by investing into companies that pay dividends. Then you would never invade your principal. Or you could just do this generally, where you take the 3 or 4% in the form of dividend payments from the companies, or stock sales from companies that don't pay dividends and their stock values just increase. And that's really good. You say $30,000 or $40,000 isn't enough, Joshua. Okay, we'll double it up. Have $2 million. If you have $2 million in the bank, now you have $60,000 to $80,000 a year. If you have $10 million in the bank, well, now you have $300,000 to $400,000 a year of true passive income. So you pick the number, but that's how you get to passive income. But notice you have to accumulate the millions. So the question that I like to pose is, what's the best pathway to that? I maintain that for most people, and especially young people, you should not pursue passive income until you have fully maximized active income. When you are born with a body. The body has physical aspects to it, your size, your strength, your beauty, and it has mental aspects to it, your intelligence, your emotional intelligence, your social skills. You have these basic things that you yourself can do, working with your mind and your body together. The best pathway for young people to do is to maximize first the things that you yourself can do. So let's pretend that we are living in a world of manual labor. You can dig a ditch and I can dig a ditch. You don't see this much in the United States of America, but still today, when I go to places around the world where they have a high population, I'll come across somebody who's sweeping the streets. I remember years ago when I first went to Hong Kong, and here I am in Hong Kong, which is just a towering collection of giant glass towers, one of the most impressive cities on the face of the earth, my favorite city in the world. And I watched a little middle-aged, older Chinese lady out sweeping the sidewalks. And she had a broom, and she had a little, what do you call it, dustpan, I guess, the little kind that janitors use. And her job was to walk all around the streets all day, sweeping the sidewalks. Well, that's something that you could do and that I could do. We all start in that position. If you were a laborer and you're in Ghana and you're stacking bricks, well, who can carry the bricks? And so you can enhance, in that kind of world, you can enhance your physical strength. If you are bigger and stronger than I am, and you can carry more bricks at a time, and you can move faster than I can because you're bigger and stronger than me, then you can carry more bricks and you can earn a little bit more income. The challenge is that in the modern world, there's a pretty quick limit as to how much you can earn doing physical labor, because there's a high supply of people. So then you start to go towards skilled labor. And skilled labor can mean various things. Let's use the brick example. If there's one person who can carry rocks from one place to another place, that person is going to earn the basic wage because that's unskilled labor. But if you're a person who can break rocks in half and you know just where to hit the rock with a hammer and you can make something useful with that ability, you can command a higher wage. I stumbled some months back on YouTube into some classic videos of rock masons. And these are people who were doing things like taking these giant boulders and creating things like a mill wheel. I could not believe what these guys were able to do with a hammer. They took a giant boulder, which they broke off in a quarry, then they transported it to their workshop, and then they sat there and with nothing but a hammer and chisel turned this giant boulder into a perfectly smooth, perfectly round mill wheel. Incredible skill. I could never do that. But they had been doing it all their lives, and they were highly skilled. Today, you can see that. There's a guy that has an Instagram channel. I don't know who he was. I'd love to cite him, but a young guy who is a rock mason. I think that's the right term. And he does these rocks for things like cathedrals. And so he goes in and repairs cathedrals. And he takes a rock and he shapes it and he adds a gargoyle to it. Incredible skill. So there's still an aspect in which you can do physical skills, but in most of our economies, we've tended to devalue that work in favor of more advanced knowledge. And so a version of that that's a little bit more applicable is that of, say, a carpenter or some form of other technician. When I was younger, I worked a good bit in the trades, and I'll use tile, for example. When I was in 7th grade, I worked this summer as a helper. And so I started off as a helper, and all you do as a helper is you carry boxes of tile from the pallet out in the driveway into the job site. Then pretty quickly, you learn how to mix up mud and thin set for the tile setter. And so you're going back and forth, and you're mixing up mud and thin set. Then you add the skill of doing cuts. So you learn how to cut the tile or cut the marble. And then I added the skill of grouting. Okay, I can come in and I can learn how to grout the tile. I never reached the skills of installing the tile, and my wages reflected that. At the time, I think I made $10 an hour, and at the time, I think the tile mechanics made something like $30 an hour. So they had the skill of coming to a bare, empty room and laying out the tile on the floor. They earned more because they had the physical ability to lay the tile, but they had the mental skill of planning out how the tile would go on the floor. That's the kind of skill set advances that you want to do, because you are taking your body and you're adding mental skills and knowledge of where to do something, how to do something, how to think about it, and you're going up the levels and earning more money. Young people should always focus first on maximizing these kinds of skills. Now, for a long time, the clear trend has been that knowledge work has generally paid more than physical labor does. And so if you are a person of normal to above average intelligence, and you can start to engage in some form of knowledge work, usually the market will pay you more. I'm prevaricating just a little bit here. I'm saying words like usual because we're in a revolution caused by the application of computer skills to the work around. And so there's a lot of us who spend a lot of time developing a lot of skills that were supposed to pay us a lot. And all of a sudden now we're looking around and the computers are disrupting us. And we're thinking, I sure wish I could be a carpenter. I sure wish I could fix an air conditioner or something like that. But in general, I think this trend is probably going to continue. So if you're an intelligent young man and you can do things like academics, you can do mathematics, or you have the ability to write well, then what happens is you start to move into the non-physical world. And when you move into the non-physical world with some skill that can be applied at scale, you can earn a larger amount. So right now, as you're listening to me, you are listening to me do something at scale. This is the same speech that I would give this young man if I were face to face. Just happens that I have a microphone, and now I'm giving it to thousands and thousands of young men, just not face to face. And so if that young man could pay me $100 for it face to face, but I can get all of my thousands of listeners to give me $1, then I can make thousands of dollars for this hour of my time as compared to $100 for an hour of my time doing it face to face. And so this is just an expression of me building more skills, thinking about things, learning how to be a good communicator, learning the basic tech skills associated with broadcasting and recording and publishing, doing a bit of marketing so that people find my things. This is the application of a lot of skills, and it pays me much better than if I were just working in the physical market because I can apply it at scale. So what you're looking for is you're looking for ways to invest into yourself so that you can do it. Let me give you two basic ideas, two heuristics. That word is kind of it's one of those weird words that is overused in some circles and not at all used. But basically, these are just mindsets, frameworks, ideas. The two that I go after is, number one, find the hardest thing that there is to do and do that. This is advice that my dad gave me when I was a teen. I think it's good advice. I continue to repeat it many years later. Find something hard and do something hard. Let me give an example. Let's say that I have a lawn maintenance company and I have a public swimming pool. Pretend I own two businesses. And I'm looking for somebody to come and work on my lawn crew, and I'm looking for someone to come and be a lifeguard at my swimming pool. Both of these jobs require some knowledge and some skills. Both of them can be learned pretty quickly. For lifeguarding, you can take a class, you can learn how to swim, or hopefully you know how to swim. You can learn how to save a life and learn the responsibilities of being a lifeguard. For lawn maintenance, you come on the job, somebody shows you how to push a lawnmower, you learn how to start it, you learn how to use a weed eater, you learn how to use a blower, etc., etc. I did that a lot when I was young too. So having done the lawn job and having been around some pools, the question is this. What would I have to pay you if you could be capable of both of those things in order for you to come and take one of my jobs and work for me? Well, if I offered you $10 an hour to come and work on my lawn maintenance crew, and I also said to you, I'll give you $10 an hour if you want to come and be a lifeguard, which of those would you choose? I promise you, after a few days doing each of them, you would probably choose the lifeguarding. Because the lawn maintenance job is harder. You're out in the sun, but you're not still, right? It's hot. I did this in South Florida. It's hot. It's hard work. At the end of the day, you're tired. Sitting by the pool, you got to pay attention. It's difficult. It's demanding. You got to pay attention. But on the whole, it's relaxing. And so I think most young men, if offered the choice, would choose the lifeguard job rather than the lawn maintenance job. And so what that means is if I need to get men into the lawn maintenance job to work on my lawn maintenance crew, I'm going to have to pay more money. Why? Because it's harder. I might have to pay $12 an hour, $14 an hour, $15 an hour. I don't know, something more than the lifeguarding because it's harder. Now, this goes at basically every level, right? So what about roofing? Well, roofing is harder than lawn maintenance work. It's hotter, it's heavier, it's more difficult. Been there, done that in South Florida. You would have to pay me more money to be a roofer than to be than to ride around on a riding mower and walk around with a blower. It's just harder, more intensive work. The key is you can advance into other hard work. So if you are intelligent and your brain works well, you learn easily, and you find something that's really hard to do in the intellectual space, you should do that. This is where we get into the classic discussion of, well, should I go to college? Should I get a degree? How many degrees should I get? How long should I stay in school? What I would say is you should choose the hardest thing that you are capable of doing and that you're attracted to. This will usually be related to the skills that come naturally to you, and they will usually be related to the skills that you're interested in excelling in. And so there are probably three basic categories that cover a lot of ground here. The first category would be that of mathematical thinking. Some of us do well with mathematical thinking. And if you enjoy math, you enjoy working on various aspects of math, that is something that can bring you pleasure. And there are many fewer people that are capable of intense mathematical excellence than are capable of running a lawnmower well or of nailing shingles on a roof. The second big category is that of language. Many times you'll have a person who is more skilled at math, and that person will be less skilled at language. On the other hand, there seem to be people and personalities who are less skilled at math and more oriented towards language. So the classic example here is the difference between a lawyer and the word is going from me. What's the word? An actuary, right? Being an actuary is an excellent career. You can make a lot of money as an actuary, somebody who sits down with tables and applies advanced mathematical skills to tables to figure out the proper pricing for insurance policies. That's what an actuary does. And this has been a consistent and reliable pathway to a good and stable income that can quickly allow you to develop your $1 million or your few $1 million as a pathway to passive income. Now, on the flip side, actuaries don't tend to be really good with language. So if you're really good with language, well, the classic pathway here is to be a lawyer. Lawyers are often just really glad that they can earn a good wage and have nothing to do with math. Not the case in all circumstances, but in many cases there's this distinction. So you want to ask yourself, well, am I drawn towards mathematics or am I drawn towards language? There's a third category. I'm not sure what to label the third category. I like to loop in things like science. So for example, I've always been decent at math, but I've always been good with language and basically uninterested in most things related to science. So the idea of my going and getting a degree in biology or chemistry and becoming a physician, it's not something I ever considered. I could absolutely see myself being a lawyer. I can't really see myself being a doctor. That doesn't really resonate with me. But that doesn't mean that being a doctor is not a great pathway to a great career. So being a doctor is hard, right? Getting a chemistry degree is hard. But if you do it, it can open up other pathways. So the first thing I really want to emphasize for young men is you should find the hardest thing that you are drawn towards and do it. And choose the things that are hard, knowing that eventually they will pay off. Now, the second thing to look at is that of, what word to use? I don't want to say hard again. I want to say difficulty of qualifications. So the way the world works is that there are qualifications that are needed for different jobs, different abilities, different skills. And the more qualifications that there are, and the more of them you have, the farther you can go. Let's use a mathematical example. If you are interested in mathematics and you start working as a tax preparer, you can get that job fairly quickly, right? It's a basic functional job, and you can get that in some weeks or months, some kind of certificate or some kind of qualifications, or be trained on the job. But if you can get a degree in accounting, because it is hard intellectually and it's time consuming to get that college degree, a bachelor's degree in accounting, you can earn more money, go farther. If you add on to that an advanced credential, like a certified public accountant, that's even harder. Now you have to pass this test. It's a rigorous test, 4 parts to it. You have to study for a long time. But once you have it, you have access to a different part of the marketplace. And virtually all careers offer some version of this qualification and credentialization process. The farther you go down that pathway and the more credentials you earn, the more you set yourself apart in the marketplace. Here, I think the physician example is the best example. If you start pursuing the pathway of being a physician, and you graduate from high school, you go to college, you get a bachelor's degree in college, you go on to medical school, and just get a general physician degree, you go out, finish residency, you can earn a good wage. I don't know if my numbers are out of date now, but let's just say my experience, a general primary care physician probably earn about $200,000 to $300,000 a year in most areas. However, you don't have to stop with just medical school. You can go on and you can acquire advanced skills. And the longer you spend in school, because it's hard, the fewer competitors you have and the higher the wages you can command are. So the difference between a primary care physician who may earn $200,000 to $300,000 a year and a surgeon who may earn $500,000 to $700,000 a year, and a specialized surgeon who may earn $800,000 to $1.2 million a year, is basically the amount of time that this person has spent in school. A number of years ago, I worked with a client that I think is probably a decent example of how this can be done. So this person went to high school, person went to college, went to medical school, continued on into surgery, and then developed an advanced skill. I think it was maxillofacial, something like that. An advanced skill as a maxillofacial surgeon. I'm sorry, I'm not an expert with the terms. And so this person spent, 12 years in advanced education, got out of medical school in early 30s, finished up all of the qualifications, all of the training, all of the residencies, etc., had millions of dollars, I think $2 million in student loan debt. But over the course of the next 6 or 7 years, was able to build a practice, sold the practice to a private equity firm, cashed out for, forget how much, but somewhere like $5 to $8 million. I think it was more like 8. Paid off his loans, and by the age of 40, had paid off all of his loans, had $6 or $8 million in the bank, and was earning over $1 million a year working for the company that had purchased his practice. That's an example of how quickly these things can pass. That individual is much more financially successful than anybody who has ever pursued passive income in college. So the frustration that I have with pursuing passive income is it sends you down a pathway of very narrow opportunities that don't usually pan out like you're looking for. What does it do? Well, it sends you down the pathway of doing network marketing. It sends you down the pathway of selling real estate, being a real estate agent, because you're thinking, man, I just want this passive income. I want to get to this as fast as possible. And what I'm trying to convince you of is that if you'll go after the thing that is the hardest, when you're 18 or when you're 22, it seems like the worst pathway. Because, how could I spend 10 years in school? And how could I have $1.5 million in student loans? But if you add another decade to it, the distance starts to increase. And you're 40 years old, and you could retire at any point in time with $300,000 to $500,000 a year of true passive income, or you can keep on working and you can have tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars over the course of your career. So I urge you, don't pursue passive income, pursue active income. And the basic framework here is take all of the money that you have or can acquire and invest all of it into yourself, into enhancing your knowledge, skills, and abilities until you literally can't spend any more money on yourself. Then turn around and say, what should I invest in? Look for things that are hard and look for things that are credentialed. Here's what you need to know. When you go out into the marketplace in a capitalistic-oriented society, you are never competing as a worker against employers. The employee never competes with the employer. Rather, you as an employee always compete with other employees. You as an employee are competing with other employees. And your employer is competing with other employers. And so your goal is to get out of the world in which you are competing with lots and lots of other potential employees and get into the world in which you are competing with a very small number of other potential employees. If you are competing with other employees to carry bricks, the employer has lots of people who are capable of doing that job. And so he doesn't have to pay very much. But if you are competing with other employees who have to have a certain physical ability, let me use the surgeon example, right? You have to have the ability to perform very precise movements with your hands. You have to be in top physical condition to be able to do this very demanding work for hours on end in surgery. And you're competing with people who have a very high intellectual ability and the kind of character needed to go through decades of formal training, pass rigorous exams. There's a very small number of people who are capable of doing that. And that's why a specialized surgeon will earn much more money than someone who carries bricks. Now, it's not just one thing. It's the full package of things. And what you're trying to figure out as a young man is, what do I have to offer? Now, notice that some of these things are inherent. For example, your physical size, your height, your physical beauty, your attractiveness, your intellectual ability. These are more or less fixed. But then there are other factors that can be changed, such as your character, your stick-to-itiveness, your determination to finish and fulfill the things that are available to you. Some things can be changed, some things can't. And so when you are young, you kind of want to look at this set of factors and try to figure out which of these factors, these basic qualities that I have, that I can enhance and that I want to enhance so that I'm willing to do the work over time. But don't pursue passive income. Pursue active income and recognize that active income is going to be paid, especially when it's hard or when it's credentialed. Now, if this were all there was to it, wouldn't we all try to be surgeons? The answer is no, because not all of us are capable of being surgeons. I'm not capable of being a surgeon, and I'm not. I don't know. I'm not interested enough to go through all those years of work. So you can go out to the marketplace and you can try to find other skills, and you can try to figure out how to apply the basic qualities you have in a number of other ways, which leads us to business. Much of what I've spoken about so far is most relevant in the world of jobs, in the realm of employment. But there are other levels. Many business people are very successful in business, even though they have less intellectual ability or less physical ability than some other people do. If you are a beautiful, beautiful person, try to use that. If you're not such a beautiful person, then try to go in a place where your physical attractiveness doesn't matter so much. And recognize that it's okay to be different than someone else. The famous example I will use here is one of the most successful businessmen of our day would be Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon. Jeff Bezos tells a story of how when he was a young man, he was pursuing and studying, I believe it was physics. And he got to a point where he really was interested in physics, or at least some specific, like pretty hardcore scientific endeavor like that. He got to a point where he was interested in physics, but he realized that he was struggling. And so a friend of his was tutoring, and his friend was just able to solve advanced scientific problems so quickly. And Jeff Bezos realized, I am just out of my league. I will never in my life have the intelligence and the intellectual horsepower necessary for me to compete with this other guy. And so he pivoted and started to apply his intelligence to the world of business. And his construction of the Amazon empire was something that he built by applying intelligence to something that he could do at scale. And that's where it becomes difficult for me to coach in general, like I'm doing now. But I want to point out to you that you can take something that is basic and you can apply it at scale, and you can get enormous revenue from that. So Jeff Bezos did this with business. People have done it with hamburgers. You can do it in many spaces, but you can find something that you can do and you can apply it at scale. But don't pursue passive income, or it will lead you in a direction of small opportunities when really what you want to pursue are big opportunities. Now, here is why I asked those other questions. I said, why do you want to start a small business instead of other options? For example, start a large business or get a job. Now, here was this young man's response. He said, for several reasons, I'm not going out and getting a normal job right now. I'm just looking for something small at first to be able to work towards things like getting a car and maybe college. I'm definitely not opposed to it growing. I was just thinking small business at first so I could get myself accustomed to how everything works. Now, there's nothing wrong with this mindset. It's fine. But this is actually a bit of a bugaboo for me, a personal pet peeve, where we often, and notice I include myself in that, I myself often limit my possibilities because my language is poorly considered. People say, I want to go and start a small business. I have said that. I have done that. Many people do that. Why? Why not go start a large business? What I have noticed again and again is that a large business is not orders of magnitude more work than a small business. I don't want to say it's easier, although I'm tempted to. I really am. But what I want to say is it's not that much more work. And this is why I reject the passive income pursuit. The people who build wealth the fastest are often those who go and build a large business the fastest. Many times people don't pursue a large business simply because they're scared of the work. But if you're willing to pursue what I said, which is do the hard things, why not just build a large business? There's a lot of individualization that would be needed for these comments to be applied. But small businesses in many cases are the most difficult in the long run because you don't have enough revenue in order to build a functional business. Small businesses are often enormously consuming. They consume all your time, they consume all your energy because you don't have enough revenue to hire people to do things for you. You don't have enough revenue to invest into systems, into software, into people who can do things for you. When you have a large business and you have lots of revenue, you can often hire people to make your life easier, to make your life better. You can afford to invest in software and software developers to create things for you. So reject this idea of just automatically choosing a small business as something to pursue, when in reality, Maybe the large business is a little harder, but it's not twice as hard. It's just harder. And recognize that many fewer people will pursue the large business than the small business. And this also relates to the same thing. Why do you want to start a small business from home? And so this young man said, well, similar reasons as before. I'm not able to drive right now and go out and do things on my own time. So I was just thinking of a way I could get around that and still make money. These are important constraints, at least for the moment. But they're constraints that are pretty quickly solved. If you're not able to drive, go get a driver's license. If you don't have money, go get a job. Then you can buy a car, you can pay for insurance, and then you can drive. Or if you can't drive, hop in an Uber and go. If you don't have money for an Uber, go make money, and then you can justify the Uber. And the reason I'm emphasizing this is that time is passing. And the men who go the farthest in their lives are the ones who go hard when they're young, because you can't ever replace that time. I have regrets when I was younger because I pursued the passive income. I pursued the pathway that I thought would be easy. I was going for the easy money. Even in Radical Personal Finance, when I started it, I was trying to go for the easy money. And when I reflect back on what I could have built, had I embraced this mindset of going hard, doing hard things, and building a large business instead of a small business, I recognize that the productivity of a decade of my life was far below what it could have been had I had a different mindset. I don't want that for you. I want better for you. So embrace the hardness and go after something that's difficult, and the rewards are likely to flow from that. Now, when you get to the application of these ideas, you will probably have to go in an orderly way. I wouldn't recommend that you go out at 17 years old and try to borrow $10 million to start a large business. I do think it makes sense for you to begin with a small business, if the small business is what is in front of you, if the small business is where you are. Skills have to be built. Some skills can be learned in the academy. The skill of being a surgeon seems to me like that is a great skill to learn in the academy. And so the mindset for you to engage in there is to find the school and follow the pathway. There's a proven pathway. Skills in areas like business, they're not so easily learned in the academy. They're learned in the trenches. And the way that you acquire those skills is usually from making mistakes. And so you want your mistakes to not wipe you out. You want to make enough mistakes that you're learning quickly, but you don't want to be knocked out of the game. And that's where there's a distinction between surgery and business. But don't prematurely limit yourself. If you're building a small business so that you can acquire skills, which you then plan to apply to a large business, cool. And that's, of course, what this young man is doing. I'm not trying to call him out. What I am trying to confront is this general idea that we have of starting a small business. Better to recognize that in the fullness of time, I want to build a large business rather than to prematurely limit yourself to a small business. I want to address one more procedural objection, and then I want to talk about the mindset and should anybody actually do what I'm saying. So this young man responded further to my question when I said, tell me some of the reasons you can't get a normal job. And he said, well, it'd be difficult for my parents to take time out of their day to take me to it since I can't drive myself. And getting a typical job like fast food or something would not provide me much benefit besides just putting money in the bank and not really learning new skills. There's a level at which I agree with this and a level at which I disagree. The key here is to ask yourself, what is my limiting factor at this moment in time? It's important to analyze your life, where you are, your circumstances, and ask yourself, what is my limiting factor? Working a job at a fast food restaurant can be an amazing way to solve some problems for some people. If you have no money, no income, if your family has no resources and no opportunity, And you can go and get a job at a fast food restaurant. You can walk there and you can walk back. And that allows you to save a little bit of money. So you can go and sign up for college or get a car or whatever it is that you need. Go get the job at the fast food restaurant. And you can learn things in that environment if you are engaged in it. I've told the story at various times of how much I learned working for doing pizza delivery for a week. It was a great experience. I was massively overqualified, well-educated, but I was looking at the world and thinking while I was doing it, and I loved that experience. I learned so much from it. And you can learn a lot in all of those jobs and all of those things if you are engaged in it. But then you have to ask the question, what's right for me now? And so if you need money and there happens to be a job at a fast food restaurant available for you, go take it. But take it for some months and then move on to the next thing. And you can work your way up in fast food restaurants. I've worked with multiple people who started out at McDonald's. I did financial planning for people who started at McDonald's, and 20 years later, they were the head of operations for a significant McDonald's franchisee running 10 restaurants. And it was all done internally because the company provided opportunities to advance, opportunities for training, many, many opportunities. It's fine to take things strategically. There's no shame in doing honest work that is good for you. But if you do have bigger and better opportunities, you want to take those. So if the question is between doing some low-level job, or the decision is between doing some low-level job and going and interning at a higher-level job, and you don't need the money because that's not your current constraining factor, then you should take the higher-level job where you work for free and build the skills, rather than the low-level job where you make money but have a slower pathway towards skill acquisition. So you got to look at your life and you got to say, what do I need now? All of us are constrained by reality. I can talk on a podcast, I can give ideas. Some of these ideas will be inspiring, and we say, wow, that's great. I want that. But then when the podcast ends, the inspiration fades a little bit, and you got to say, well, what do I have? And we're all working with a set of opportunities that are available to us now. My goal is to expand your thinking about the opportunities that are actually available to you. I want you to recognize that the opportunity set that is presented to you is much larger than the opportunity set that you probably perceive. And this is why you need advice from people like me who are older. You need advice from people who are around you. And one of the best skills that you can develop as a young man is the skill of asking for advice. And I have lots of things on that elsewhere. I have a course on career progression. That's all elsewhere. But when you turn off the podcast, when you close the book, you have to look at the actual opportunities that are in front of you. The mindset is important so that when a bigger opportunity comes by, you say yes to it. I'm convinced one of the other very simple and powerful heuristics that you can embrace is that of simply being one who says yes. When an opportunity presents itself, say yes. When someone says, hey, would you like to go out and do this thing with me? Say yes. And you wind up doing something, learning something, meeting somebody. When somebody gives you an offer and says, would you be interested in trying this thing? Would you be interested in working for me? Say yes. And if you just become someone who says yes continually, the opportunities get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then once you have a lot more opportunities, you use these frameworks that I've given you, and you say, what's the hardest thing? What's the thing with the biggest opportunity? And let me go after that. The most important mindset that I think will hold you back if you don't tackle it is the mindset of ease. Many highly capable people choose easy jobs instead of hard jobs, choose easy degrees instead of hard degrees, because they believe that life is better when it's easy. I don't think that's true. I've had the privilege of doing a number of easy things in my life. 2 stories from when I was a teen. At one point in time, one of the first easy jobs that I had was I had a job where I worked for a farmer when I was in high school. And when I started working for the farmer, the first summer I worked on the actual farm. So I was driving a tractor and harvesting and doing the stuff on the farm. And that kind of farm work is difficult. It's physically demanding. You start early, you work till later. I enjoyed a lot of aspects of it. It's not particularly difficult sitting in a tractor. It's kind of boring, but I enjoyed certain aspects of it. So that was one summer. The following summer, I needed a job. And so I talked to my boss again, and he said, yeah, absolutely. And that second summer, he put me in the office. And I thought, well, this is great. I'm going to be able to work in the office. And he recognized I was intelligent, I was capable, I could do things, and he put me in the office. But as it turned out, when I was in the office, I wound up basically having very little to do. He wasn't in the office. I was working for his office manager. And what was now obvious as an adult is that she just was saying yes to her boss. Yep, I'll put him to work. And she would give me a few tasks, but I was there for a summer job and I had some skills, but it was just simpler for her to do most things and for her to basically leave me over in the corner. I thought that this was going to be a great job. I would do some errands. I would do some simple tasks for her. And basically, I would answer the phone. She told me to answer the phone. So my work was sitting at my desk answering the phone, but the phone didn't ring very often. So I brought books with me and I would sit at my desk and read books and I would check in with her. And her name was Alicia. You know, is there something I could do? No, just answer the phone. And so I would sit there and read most of the day. I love to read. I enjoy it. I was so ready to be done with that job by the end of the summer. It was just, I wanted to be done. It was terrible. Even though it was pleasurable, I was doing something I liked to do, but I didn't feel useful. I thought, I was so ready to be done, even though it was easy. Easy money, when you're not engaged with it, winds up being, at least for me, it wound up being very painful money. And I was very glad to go back to school when the school year started. Following year, I didn't work for that boss. Following year, I started teaching. I started working for a wakeboarding and water skiing school. And once again, this is a job that is the dream. It's the dream for a young man. I was a junior in high school, and here I am working at the summer camp, driving a boat all day, teaching children to water ski and wakeboard. How does it get better than that as a young man? Go to work in board shorts and flip-flops, drive a boat all day, sit in the sun, hang out with the children and the teens, drive a boat up and down. It was great until I was a couple months into it. And it was just, I was done. I did it another following year because that was the job that I had offered to me. So I did it for 2 seasons, 2 summers, and I was glad to end that job, even though it was easy. And I'm glad I had those experiences. I want to share them with you as a young man. And you probably won't believe me. You will probably need to go and have these experiences yourself. But on the whole, I found that easy was also boring, and boring was not fun. And as you get older, what you're going to be looking for is impact and meaning and growth. Those are the things that are rewarding. I can't cite the details of this, but I have read about how they've done psychological experiments with people where you have a task and you pay someone extremely well, $100 an hour, and you say, I'm going to pay you $100 an hour to dig a ditch. And so, man, $100 an hour to dig a ditch. You get out there and you dig the ditch and you do it for a day and you come back in and, man, I dug the ditch, and you feel very well paid for the work that you've done. And the next day, your boss says, okay, now I want you to fill the ditch in, and I'll pay you $100 to fill the ditch in. And so, the workers will do it, but what? This is no fun. So they do it and they fill the whole ditch in. The third day, boss comes out and says, great, good job. You filled the ditch in. Now I want you to dig the ditch out again. And again, I can't cite the details of this, but you can imagine that those workers don't last very long. Even when you're being paid an obscenely high wage, it's not enough. Nobody wants to earn an obscenely high wage for doing work that is useless. It's not just the boredom. If you were digging a ditch for something that mattered to you, to your boss, to the community, there's purpose in it. And what happens is the older I get, the more I crave that kind of work. I crave work that is straightforward, that I just do. One of the things I find difficult about my job is that my job requires enormous levels of self-discipline in order to do things. And there are many days that I dream of quitting business and just going and having a job and being a truck driver or doing something where I don't have to exercise discipline, where I just go and do the job I'm told to be. I dream of, I've never driven a snowplow in my life, but I dream of driving a snowplow. That sounds fun to me. But then I recognize, well, easy work is not the key. I need to do what I am called to do. God has given me work to do, and I need to do that work. And the other man needs to drive the snowplow, and I need to do what I can do. And so, again, you won't believe me, but I promise you, don't pursue easy. Pursue meaningful. And probably the best way to get to meaningful is hard. What I mean is, I say do work that's meaningful or impactful. What does that mean? You can't apply that yet. I have a little bit more idea of how to apply that. And when I'm 60, I'll probably have more ideas of how to apply that. But to get to meaningful or impactful, just do hard. Make sure it's something you're drawn towards. Make sure it's something that reflects on skills that either you have or would like to develop. But don't chase easy. We're not inspired as people by easy. I doubt there's anybody that you look up to and respect who just does things that are easy. I like to use things like sports, right? Why is Kobe Bryant so revered in the world of basketball? Well, because he worked hard. He was a man of good basic talent, but he didn't have as much raw talent as some other athletes have or had. So he made up for it with hard work. And he was a hustler. He worked and he worked and he worked and he worked. And we look at Kobe and we admire him for his work ethic. All of the people that we admire are people who do hard things. And you say, why do they do it if they don't have to? If the goal was to have passive income and to have $300,000 a year, couldn't Kobe have quit years before? Of course he could have. Of course he could have, right? Why did President Trump, who has all this money and all this fame, why does he go into politics? And then once he gets out of office and gets impeached and gets sued and whatnot, why does he still go into politics? Because you get addicted to doing hard things. You do want to do things that matter. You want your life to be meaningful, to matter. And the most direct pathway to do that is to find something hard that needs to be done and do it. The search for easy is a fool's goal. The earlier you learn that, the better. I learned it in high school. I keep on learning it. I hope that I've learned it at this point, but I'm kind of dense. I'll probably have to keep on learning it the hard way. Easy is not joyful. Easy is not fulfilling. There is nothing in life that comes easily that you feel good about. When things come easy to you, you feel guilty when you achieve them. They don't resonate with you. I've accomplished a lot of things in my life that other people have not been able to accomplish. The things I'm most proud of are not the things that are the highest level of accomplishment. They're the things that cost me the most. If you're the first person in your family to go to college and get a college degree, and everybody in your family is behind you, and you're the first one, and you're one of these first generation people where, you walk across that stage and you're in tears because you're the first person in your family to get this, you're going to feel amazing about your accomplishment. I was happy when I got a college degree, but it has never been meaningful to me. Just who we are as people, right? Everyone in my family has a college degree. There's nothing new it wasn't hard for me. It was easy. So I don't value at all my degrees. I don't think it's kind of personal, but I'll tell you I'll go ahead and I'll tell you the award that for me is the award that I value the most. I played exactly 1 year of high school basketball. My parents didn't encourage me to engage in sports. My senior year, I went out and played high school basketball. I actually don't even remember how I wound up doing it. I think it sounded fun. I went out and played a little bit, and I did it. I was, by a long shot, the worst basketball player on that team. My senior year of high school, I'd never played basketball before that. I remember we were doing, what do they call them? Not tryouts, but like conditioning or whatever, conditioning camp. And we're out there, and one of the assistant coaches took me aside to teach me how to do a layup. Right? Imagine that. You're a senior in high school. You're 6.5 feet tall, and the assistant coach is taking you at the side to teach you how to do a layup. I didn't know how to make a layup. It's the most basic skill in basketball. I was utterly incompetent at basketball. But they put me on the team, and I played. I was fat. I was slow. I couldn't hit a shot to save my life. I was terrible. But I'm a team player. And I went out on that basketball court, and every day at practice, I practiced hard. They taught me how to guard people, and I guarded the better players on the team. And it was, and I played. The entire season, I think I played 2 minutes. I probably took 1 shot, 2 shots the whole season. That was absolutely terrible. The end of the season, we're doing awards. I never expected to get an award. The coach gave me that year his coach's award. And that award meant more to me than a college degree. Because for me, it signified my doing something hard. I hustled when we were doing suicides. I was fat. I was out of shape. It was terrible, but I did something hard, and I was proud of myself for doing something hard. That's the feeling that you're chasing, is to be proud of yourself. As a man, you want to be able to look yourself in the mirror and be proud of yourself, knowing that you are doing the best you're able to do. When you're out on the edge of your ability, and you're doing something that is hard, that you care about, and you're doing it as best you can, you fall into bed at night satisfied. Not because you're rich, not because you're good, but because you're doing something hard. You're giving it your all. Don't play around in the world of easy. Try to get right out to the limit of your ability. Do something that's hard. Once you do it, it becomes easy. Then go after something else that's hard. That's a cycle that I don't think you ever get to the end of in life. That's a cycle you can repeat again and again and again. Now, you're not fixed in any one thing. I played 1 year of basketball, never played another year of basketball. I don't play basketball. I'd like to. Probably should. I would like to do more. But the point is, you're not stuck with something. But like with my silly little story, the things that you do that are hard for you are the things that you're going to be proud of. When you face your own inadequacy, your own insecurity, and you try something that you care about, for whatever reason you care about it, though that satisfaction, that self-esteem, that confidence is something that no one can ever take from you. But if you pursue things that are easy or that sound easy, you pursue the hack, you pursue the thing that well, if I just do this thing, then I'll get these great results. Trust me, been there, done that. That's not the path. Try something hard. So in conclusion, to the question, do I have any advice or simple steps I can do to start generating passive income? My answer is don't pursue passive income at all. Pursue active income. Do that by investing into yourself, developing your knowledge, your skills, and your ability. Invest every hour of every day into getting better. Give yourself 1 hour a night to relax. But buy up the time and invest your time into building and enhancing your knowledge, your skills, and your ability. Do that continually, day after day, year after year, and you will become a man of substance, a man who matters, a man who is important, a man who is powerful. And when that load falls on your shoulder, it will not catch you unprepared. It's not like you're the frivolous, wayward son and your daddy leaves you a giant trust and you go out and you waste it all on foolishness. No, you will be a man who's prepared. And when your daddy leaves you a fortune and that rests on your shoulders, you will take it, you will grow it, you will impact the world, and you will continue that chain of faithfulness down through the generations. Those are the virtues that a man ought to strive for. Those are the moral qualities that you want to develop. Now, at this point, just do it by active income. Make as much money as you can, and as you're making money, develop your knowledge, skills, and ability as much as you can. Chase after hard things. Chase after things that are hard to get into because they're credentialed, because there's cartels, because there's gatekeepers that you have to get past. Build the skills. Progress step by step. If you're interested in business, start with a small business, but don't limit yourself. And walk away from all lightweight, ease-based thinking. Because once you achieve those goals, they come easily to you. You don't value them. You think, probably, as I did, oh, my life will be great when I have $2 million in the bank. No, it won't be. Your life will be great when you're doing hard work that matters, when you're developing yourself, when you're bearing the responsibility that is your place. That is what you should aim for. That is the pathway that never runs out. Now, the millions are fun, right? The steak dinner tastes nice. The passive income will be great. There'll be times in your life when you'll be able to enjoy it. The money is a natural reward for following the pathway that I'm describing. But if you're just chasing the passive income, you won't wind up with it. You'll wind up on the wrong path. Those are my thoughts. That's my advice. I hope it's useful to you. Be back with you very soon. If you haven't signed up yet for Radical Family Camp 2026, remember that April 16 to 19, 2026, the third annual Radical Family Camp is available. At the time of my recording this podcast, tickets are available. You can get your tickets at the link in the show notes or at radicalfamilycamp.com.